It's been about a week since the debate, and I'm sure we're all sick of hearing clips and having every line both candidates spoke obsessed over and analyzed ad nauseum by every blogger and talk show host out there. Now, obviously, I can't watch everything or listen to everything or read every article, but there was one line that I didn't see analyzed anywhere. I think it kind of slipped under the radar. Maybe nobody else noticed how significant it was. But it didn't get by me, so bear with me just for a second, and I'm going to play a quick clip of Barack Obama's answer to the question, what is the role of the federal government?
The first role of the federal government is to keep the American people safe.
Now, he was mainly referring to his role as commander-in-chief, so this may seem a little bit harsh, but a fail is a fail, and it must be called out. Now, I'm not playing the Price is Right fail because I want to fail the president. Okay, well, I'll give you that. Yeah, I do kind of. The temptation is really there. But I have a specific purpose, and that is because that answer flows perfectly into the next line, which was...
Government has the capacity, the federal government has the capacity, to help open up opportunity and create ladders of opportunity and to create frameworks where the American people can succeed.
As if without the government, the American people can't succeed. Obviously, I reject that. 95% of the people watching this video reject that premise just on principle. But it goes deeper than that. These two statements are connected on a fundamental level, and it goes right to the heart of why I would take video of myself riding a motorcycle and then talk over it. It's not just an aesthetic choice, although it kind of is. I don't really want to appear on camera all the time, and I think you deserve something better than to have to look at me for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a clip. But there is something more to it. Let me tell you an anecdote, and I think everybody who rides a motorcycle has a story like this. It's something that all of us face from time to time. Once I was just minding my own business going to the grocery store, and the girl behind the counter noticed that I was wearing a Harley-Davidson logo do-rag. And she instantly launched into a tirade about her brother-in-law, who was selling his motorcycle, because a friend of his crashed out in the woods, and they had to remove part of his foot. And they have since come to the conclusion that those machines just aren't safe. To be honest, sometimes it's tempting to just launch on somebody like that. But really, she's kind of right. Motorcycles aren't safe. They're incredibly dangerous machines. Here in the United States, you probably don't need to own a motorcycle. Although I think it'll probably become more common as gas gets more expensive. Throughout Asia and in parts of Europe, most people ride motorcycles for that reason. Gas is a lot more expensive in other parts of the world. So maybe I can kinda, sorta, maybe a little bit find a way to not entirely unplausibly, not completely disagree with what she's saying. She definitely is wrong, because while motorcycles aren't safe, I want you to go ahead and think for a little bit and try and come up with something in your life that you do that is completely and utterly safe. Is there anything that you do that is impossible to die or injure yourself while you're doing it? Go ahead, think about it. Think it over a little bit. Do you have an answer? Is there something you thought of in your head? Go ahead, tell me. Now, obviously, I can't hear you, but I know that you're wrong if you have a serious answer, because nothing is safe. Safety is an illusion, and that's the title of my first ever video as the Gadsden Rider. Safety is something that you feel inside. It's not real. At the end of the day, you still live on a rock that's spinning out of control around a giant nuclear furnace at 30,000 miles an hour. And the truth is that none of us are getting out of here alive. Life is not safe. Life is not simple. Life is not easy. Life is messy. It's dark. It's chaotic. It's painful. You can get horrifically injured, physically or mentally. And nobody can change that, no matter how powerful they are. No entity can change that. No political structure can change that. The nature of the universe is, at its heart, chaos. So, yeah, you could die or be horrifically injured on a motorcycle. Or you could die or be horrifically injured in a car. Or just walking down the street. You could be sitting on your couch watching TV, and a meteorite could fall out of the sky and crush you to death. You could have a heart attack and die in your sleep. There are steps you could take to protect yourself. I wear a helmet every time I go out on a motorcycle. I wear a seatbelt when I'm in the car. And I try and watch my diet and exercise so that I don't die of a heart attack next weekend. At the end of the day, that's the best you can do. Safety, at best, is relative. This is a concept that I think Western civilization has mostly lost touch with, and the United States specifically. Because since the end of World War II, we've lived in an almost unprecedented period of what I'll call relative peace. Of course, there are conflicts here and there, some violent, brutal, bloody, horrible conflict. But in the developed world, in general, the average person does not face violent death every day. And if you study history, what you'll find is that that usually is not the case. Here in the US, we've lived in an almost unbroken period of unbridled economic expansion. Have there been recessions? Sure. Have there been hard times now and then? Absolutely. But in general, things are always getting better here. And again, if you study history, that is almost never the case. As a result, lots of people live in a kind of bubble, a false sense of security that makes them feel very comfortable. And the idea that that comfort is someday going to be broken and destroyed doesn't sit well with them. And that brings us back to President Obama.
The first role of the federal government is to keep the American people safe.
It can't. Nobody can make you safe. Nobody can guarantee that you're going to be relatively comfortable and okay for the entirety of your existence on this planet. It's impossible. All the federal government can do is take reasonable precautions to protect you. It's the federal government's constitutionally mandated responsibility to raise a navy and arguably an army to provide for the common defense. But notice what happens when it steps outside those boundaries, when it tries to keep you safe. You get an expensive, out-of-control bureaucracy with no accountability that is quite literally abusing citizens of this country who want to get on an airplane. And how safe can the TSA really make you? They can't possibly take away everything that could be used as a weapon. At the end of the day, a terrorist could still stab you with a pen or use his thumbnail to slice open a stewardess's jugular vein. Federalized airport security is just another bubble. It's just another false sense of security that you can blanket yourself in if it really makes you feel better. But making you feel better is all it really does. And of course, you all know that the TSA was created under a Republican administration. And you will also notice that I have not complimented Mitt Romney at all in this video. And you won't hear me say many good things about him. Republicans are definitely part of this problem. And in a way, it's easy to understand why. They want to get elected and they want to get reelected for the rest of their lives. And the easiest way to end your career in politics would be to break people's illusion of safety. Another illusion is the so-called social safety net, which includes things like Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, welfare, food stamps, and so on. I would argue that the federal government has no place in this whatsoever, but if we must have a safety net, it should be a reasonable precaution only for the most extreme cases where people really need help. But as usual, the government has overstepped its boundaries, and it attempts to make people feel safe. And they do that because it's an easy way to buy votes and support. So where's all this headed? Well, you've probably heard the term nanny state before, but have you ever really thought about what it means? The federal government at this point is kind of like an overprotective mother. She doesn't want to sign a permission slip for her son to play football. She always wants him to wear a helmet when he goes out on his bicycle or rollerblades and he gets made fun of by all the other kids, because she's too afraid to see him get hurt or even to see him die. Of course, nobody wants to die. But if you're too worried, if you're too afraid, if you're always sitting around and worrying about whether or not you're going to be safe, you're not really living. You know what I think we need? I think we need a quote from Braveheart.
Every man dies. Not every man really lives.
You know, I couldn't have said it better myself. And you know what? We're not really living. Our attempt to make ourselves feel safe by empowering the government has resulted in an out-of-control bureaucracy that's strangling this country. We're drowning in debt, and our currency is on its way to becoming next to worthless. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, Mitt Romney doesn't even seem to understand that this is the problem. He's not going to do anything about it, and you're right. But as much as it hurts, and believe me, it's hard for me to say this, I think we're going to have to... Sorry, hold on. We're going to have to... we're gonna have to vote for him anyway. Oh. And believe me, it's hard for me to tell this to you, but I have my reasons. Come back for the next video and I'll explain why. I hope you'd enjoyed me as the Gadsden Rider, and I hope you'll come back and check out my next video. Meanwhile, subscribe and pass me on to your friends. Right on!